Hello everyone, my name is Adam Case, President and Show Director of the Home Design and Remodeling shows in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Palm Beach, Florida's largest and most trusted destination for everything home design and home improvement. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening as we have an incredible presentation. We're going to be talking about architectural recessed lighting for the home, and we have a great presenter, Abigail Sorensen of Tech Lighting. At the end of the presentation, write down your questions throughout the presentation on the chat box as we're going to have a Q&A session following. Following the Q&A, we have an exciting raffle where you're going to be able to have the chance to win some Tech Lighting prizes. Now, I have a very special thank you that goes out to LBU Lighting for hosting us this evening. They're Florida's premier specialty lighting store, and they have over 9 locations, so I highly suggest all of you to go over to their website after this and check them out at lbulighting.com. I'm now going to introduce a very special person, the showroom manager here in Boca Raton, Martin Hack. Martin Hack, he's going to be joining us. He's going to be telling you a little bit more about LBU Lighting. So thank you and enjoy the presentation. Martin.
Good evening, all, and welcome to LBU Lighting. We are very happy to host this presentation. LBU Lighting has been around for 35 years. And as you can see from the starting video, we have evolved into a very contemporary lighting showroom with a large selection of all types of fixtures, representing most of the lighting vendors in the USA. Our showroom is updated continually to keep up with the changing fashions in the industry. We have 9 showrooms in Florida with lighting specialists that can help you throughout with all your lighting needs. And if you have not visited our stores, please come in and we'll be glad to help you. I just want to take this opportunity to thank all the lighting designers and contractors and builders and electricians who use us and for their continued support. I also want to thank Tech Lighting, who happened to be one of our very first vendors who started with LBU Lighting in the very beginning, for giving this presentation. Please enjoy the presentation and please come visit us. Thank you.
That was a quick presentation as far as the LBU showroom, and now I'm happy to announce and introduce Abigail Sorensen of Tech Lighting for the presentation. Enjoy.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our CEU, Architectural Recessed Lighting for the Home. I really do wish I was there with you in Florida, but I'm coming to you from Chicago, where it's a sunny 39 degrees right now. I'll probably be able to wear short sleeves that I was seeing in the showroom earlier in about 2 months. Lighting is a conversation and a subject that I love. So thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you, LBU Lighting, for inviting us to speak to your community. In order to be concise and stick to the timeline, today's presentation is scripted, but as Adam mentioned, we do welcome your questions. So go ahead and enter any questions you might have as we go in the chat box. And Don Lyons, who's our local representation, and LBU Lighting will be hosting a Q&A session after the presentation. We'll try to answer all the questions that you might have. So quickly, just to tell you a little about myself, I discovered the world of lighting while pursuing my degree in interior design. And for me, once I understood the transformative power of light in the interior environment, I really never looked back. After 20 years in the lighting industry, I currently manage the Visual Comfort and Company training program in Illinois. And if you haven't worked with us before, at Visual Comfort and Tech Lighting, we're really known for a mix of premium decorative and premium architectural lighting products. Our best-selling product on the architectural side is our small aperture, highly adjustable, and very minimal looking downlight, the Element 3-inch. It's a perfect lighting solution for homes with custom interior design. At Tech Lighting, we have industry-leading delivery times, dedicated customer service, and we really stand behind our products when there are issues. And we offer a lot of specification tools like IES files and Revit for the design phase. Our products are engineered for simple installation, intuitive aiming, and easy maintenance. And I was really excited to learn we're one of the first vendors for LBU Lighting back in the day. We are about a 30-year-old company. So why this CEU? It is our mission and our passion at Tech Lighting to help designers and homeowners fall in love with great lighting. And the transition to a new technology paired with the need for better energy conservation has really revealed a potential for much better lighting in our homes. Great architectural lighting for the home, such as small aperture recessed lighting, actually experiences really low penetration in the market right now. While interior designers and homeowners purchase premium furniture, appliances, even premium decorative light fixtures, investing in architectural lighting isn't as common. Why? Because great lighting and how to achieve it is just not as well understood. We actually estimate that only 5% of high-end homes go beyond a typical recessed can or traditional under cabinet lighting, and we aim to change that. I'm a passionate believer in the transformative properties of lighting, and I'm here to tell you that you don't need to be a lighting designer to understand the value of great lighting. You really just have to know that you want it. So by the end of this presentation, I hope to convince you that great lighting, a mix of decorative and architectural lighting, will bring real value to your projects and your customers. So with that introduction, let's get started with our CEU, Architectural Recessed Lighting for the Home. So this is a fundamentals course, and our objectives for you are to walk away with a better understanding of basic lighting design principles, to understand what architectural recessed lighting is and how it can positively impact a project, and to give you a comfort level with using recessed architectural lighting by demystifying some terminology and components. Can you guys go one more slide? There we go, thanks. So as members of the design community, I know you are familiar with the basic principles of design: color, texture, line, form. These are all principles that are so ingrained in your process, you execute them without actually thinking about them. But think about this: without light, you can't even see the other design elements in a space. Lighting literally impacts 100% of the other things in a space, and it can dramatically change your experience of the other elements. No one will get the full impact of a custom fabric if the lighting isn't rendering the colors properly. A valuable piece of artwork can be lost in the mix without thoughtful and appropriate lighting to accent it. Because of the outsized impact that lighting has, it is critical to interior design. In fact, it's one of your most powerful tools to understand and use. So consider this quote from a design educator: "Great design with average lighting looks average. Average design with great lighting looks great." So when it comes to using light in a project, most people think about visibility. Will there be enough light in the space? Good visibility really encompasses how comfortable the light is and how well you can see. In many projects, visibility is the primary intent of a lighting layout, but that does leave a lot on the table. Here I have 6 of the basic lighting principles used in lighting design, and I want to focus on the 3 that are the most critical. First, the hierarchy of visual importance. Simply put, the human eye focuses on the brightest thing in a room. To control the focal point of a space, you want to put the most amount of light on what's most important, and the second most amount of light on the second most important, and so on. In order to achieve the principle of hierarchy, that important object has to stand out from the space around it, and that leaves us to the second. An object is only bright in comparison to the other things in the room. That's called the contrast ratios. If the light levels in the room are all the same, your eye really doesn't know what to focus on. So the takeaway, it's just as important to not light as it is to light. And third, here I have space perception. Lighting is incredibly impactful to your perception of space. And lighting the vertical surfaces and the ceiling really makes the space feel bigger and more open, while not lighting them controls how small, cozy, or intimate a space can feel. So you can use light to really accentuate the designed experience and tell a story about a space. It's a really powerful tool in your arsenal. So these principles define the experience of a space. The other principles here are pretty useful as you think about strategically placing light fixtures for optimum impact. For instance, using light to define texture or model form. You've experienced modeling with light when you see a sculpture or a tree lighted from 3 different angles. Controlling the angle of the light on an object or surface is also an amazing way to reveal texture. And we're going to talk a little more about that when we cover wall washing and grazing. The last one I have here is color perception. Lighting is the critical factor in making colors appear true. So the quality of a light source has a tremendous impact on interior spaces. So later in the presentation, we will cover how to evaluate the quality of LED light. When you're thinking about your lighting design, these are the 6 principles that are the great tools you'll need to create a great lighting design. So layers of light is terminology that you've probably heard before. Organizing lighting into layers is a useful thought process as you develop your lighting design. There are more than 3, but these are the most important. So general or ambient lighting as a layer refers to the concept that we mentioned, visibility. It's even, comfortable light that fills the space. Task lighting refers to the lighting that's needed to achieve the primary and secondary functions of a space. In a dining room, we need good task lighting for dining and entertaining, but there might be secondary functions to consider, like homework or cleaning, and good task lighting design would accommodate these different uses. It would include different solutions than the task lighting that's designed for other rooms. Accent lighting is used to highlight important objects or architectural features, and that's what really gives dimension to a room. A common practice in residential design is to start with a general lighting layer. All too often, this is a grid of commodity recessed downlights throughout the home, and decorative lighting is then added to create the overall lighting design. This formula can make it easy to overlight and a little hard to achieve visual hierarchy or contrast. So when I work on a lighting project, I evaluate and accommodate task lighting requirements. Then I work through appropriate accent lighting to define the space and the experience. And then I add any needed ambient lighting to ensure the lighting design is comfortable. I want to make sure visibility is good, and that general layer will add softness to the overall design. I think this order really helps avoid overlighting and helps with the execution and the hierarchy concept. You'll find some fixtures, such as a table lamp, might fulfill more than one category. It's both the task lighting and the ambient lighting in a seating arrangement, for instance. An under cabinet lighting plan in a kitchen functions as task lighting for cooking, as well as accent lighting, highlighting the beautiful materials and the counter and the backsplash. So it's not a black and white process, but it is a really nice way to start to organize and think through some of the different layers you might want in a project. It is ideal to have at least 3 different light layers in every space, because light coming from different sources and different directions is more dynamic. So considering these 3 layers as you develop your lighting design is going to help you create spaces that are comfortable to experience and rich in mood and detail. So with a framework for the design process, here are the standard lighting techniques that are used by lighting designers to create their layers. Downlighting refers to lighting from above. It's a common technique for lighting residential spaces, and we're going to focus on architectural recessed downlighting throughout this presentation. The next two, wall washing and wall grazing, are actually pretty easily confused. Wall washing refers to pulling the light back and shining it at the wall from a distance, really getting the light in all crevices and smoothing out the appearance of the surface to create an even illuminated plane. It does require specially engineered products to do successfully. Wall grazing is the opposite. The light is positioned really close to the wall in order to skim down the surface of the material. This lights all the projections, such as a tile edge, and it creates a shadow at the recess like the grout line, which creates contrast. Grazing is used to make textures pop, and residentially it's pretty common in showers with textured tile walls. Grazing is not great for lighting a wall clad in drywall. So uplighting is lighting from below. Common applications are lighting tree canopies and maybe building facades. In office spaces, fixtures with an indirect or an uplight feature use the ceiling as a reflector and bounce the light back into the space to achieve comfortable, bright, even illumination throughout. Uplighting is a really great way to light the ceiling and make the space feel larger. Front lighting is commonly used to illuminate built-ins for a soft, shadowless illumination of the objects within. And backlighting is commonly used to backlight signage in retail or sometimes to backlight mirrors in residential bathrooms. You might occasionally see transparent materials such as onyx backlighted. You'll be familiar with cove lighting, a form of uplighting that refers to very specific architectural detailing with the light on a ledge around the perimeter of an area, and that'll usually have a higher ceiling in the middle. So with those, we've covered the key lighting principles of visibility, hierarchy, and contrast. We just talked about using layers of light to organize your lighting design process, and we've reviewed the common lighting techniques. So we're ready to move on to the next section, why recessed lighting. So recessed lighting, architectural recessed lighting, platforms, and attributes are the topics that we're going to cover in the next slides. And as I mentioned, you don't need to be a lighting designer to get great lighting in a home. You just need to know that you want it. With that in mind, we're not going to be focusing on tactical details like how many fixtures to use or where to place them, because there really are a lot of specialists in the industry to help you with that. Particularly LBU Lighting can help you. But we will be getting you armed and dangerous with concepts and terminology so you can confidently work with those specialists. You guys can advance to the next slide. There we go, thanks. So why architectural recessed lighting? Of the different lighting techniques, downlighting with recessed lights is one of the most flexible tools that you have in lighting design, and it's instrumental in achieving layers of light, especially for residential applications. So what's so great about it? It represents an accepted aesthetic. It integrates into the architecture smoothly. It's possible to use recessed fixtures generously without overwhelming the space design. Recessed lighting is great for achieving different layers of light. It can be excellent task lighting. It's excellent accent lighting. It can also be used for ambient lighting. And there's a high potential for zonal control, meaning you can easily create different experiences in a room by controlling all the fixtures together. So in this image here, I just want you to note the seating area is brightly illuminated. There's really good task lighting on the desk surface. There's a beautiful wall wash on the partial X artwork that we can see. And best of all, there's no bright, large apertures on the ceiling. Your eye is drawn to the compelling purpose and the focal points of the room and to the view, not to the ceiling. Although this only uses downlights for all three layers, it is a successful application of high quality, adjustable recessed fixtures delivering the task, accent, and ambient lighting layers. Personally, I think it's good to throw in a few table lamps too, but that's a good, you can do it all with downlighting. So what makes recessed lighting architectural? We agreed that recessed fixtures are practical and useful. Why architectural recessed lighting? Simply put, because it's a better tool to help you create beautiful and functional spaces. I touched on this pretty real disconnect in the world of design. People involved with residential design are really familiar with high-end appliances, plumbing fixtures, finishes, and custom furniture. But in a lot of cases, they're not as familiar with the equivalent in lighting products. Many of you have experienced a luxury home project with a $40,000 to $80,000 appliance budget and a lighting budget of as little as $10,000 for the whole home. When you think about the fact that 100% of the rest of the design elements of a home are impacted by the lighting, you begin to see that's a little upside down. The client has just spent a lot of money on the interior, the finishes, the furniture, the artwork. You and they want to get the most out of those design elements by lighting them in the best possible way. So why the disconnect? Again, mostly because homeowners and even the design community just aren't as aware of what they could have. The quality of the lighting equipment and the lighting design should at least be as good as the quality of the other design elements in a home. And there are products and experts to help deliver that. So it's not my goal to convince people to overspend on recessed lighting. The goal is to help people to understand the value of investing in lighting and that they should spend on recessed lighting in the same way that they're spending in the rest of the space. To put it this way, 20 years ago, people didn't think about spending $18,000 on a refrigerator that cools our food, but today there are people in custom homes that are making that choice. They see the value of that investment, and as we become more aware of the value of great lighting, I envision a future in 5 to 10 years where all designers and customers really demand it. So what are we talking about? Ultimately, the functionality, flexibility, craftsmanship, and aesthetic of a fixture determines the attribute architectural and equates to quality. A good architectural recess platform is able to deliver a variety of lighting techniques in one family and offers great technical flexibility after the fixture is in the ceiling. That really makes it easier for the designer. When a recessed fixture is specified on a project, the goal is not to have people looking at the ceiling. It's the opposite. We want them to look at what we're lighting. But if they do look at the ceiling, we want it to feel like the fixture is part of the architecture. That's achieved with a quiet ceiling design, and we're going to talk more about that in a minute. Even in new construction, as we know there are constraints, a broad architectural recess platform has a bunch of different solutions to integrate the equipment into the space above the ceiling. Solutions like remodel housings, shallow housings, housings that integrate into wood ceilings, and many others. To recap, in comparison to commodity recess lighting, architectural recess lighting has quality craftsmanship and wide optionality to deliver great lighting and also to provide the comfort of a product that's going to stand the test of time once it's in the space. So I keep mentioning quiet ceiling. Here's just a little bit more about that. In the image here, you can see your eye is drawn to the painting itself, and it's not really drawn to the fixture. In fact, you almost don't notice where the light's coming from. To make that possible, the source of the light is recessed well above the ceiling, so you don't actually see it. I mentioned that your eye is drawn to the brightest thing in the room. Here, the small fixture opening and the recessed source really minimize surface brightness, so your eye isn't drawn to it. Think about that commodity can. It's open and very bright, and how different this looks in the ceiling. In this application, the trim is mudded in, so there's no shadow where the trim meets the ceiling, also minimizing attention to the fixture. And overall, when you're in the space, it's a really comfortable experience because of low glare. So the trick is that even though the opening is small, it's still putting out a ton of light with great aiming features. And all of that engineering is the quality marker that makes this a quiet ceiling product. And that's for the focus to be on what you want to light and not on the light fixture itself. So those are some of the reasons why recessed architectural lighting has a significant ability to positively impact your projects. Okay, so we've decided we want recessed, and within recessed lighting, we want an architectural recessed lighting fixture. Now we have to figure out what platform we want to use. Essentially, there are 3 types of fixtures: adjustable, wall wash, and fixed. Can you guys advance the slide one more slide? Thanks. So adjustable is the most commonly used due to its flexibility. Because we might not know exactly the furniture or the objects that are going to be in a space or how that might change over time, adjustable lights are a really good choice throughout a home. With adjustable, you can literally aim the light to where it's needed, and that option provides security for future needs. Wall wash is different from an adjustable in the way the light is optically controlled. An adjustable has a cone of light or a beam that you can aim, really bringing the object into focus in contrast to the area around it. A wall wash generates even illumination on the wall from the ceiling to the floor. With proper spacing, this creates that glowing plane of light. Wall washing is great for lighting architectural features such as a fireplace, or for floor-to-ceiling kitchen cabinetry that's on trend right now, or to provide the flexibility needed to light a photo gallery wall where the light's everywhere and not in little spots on the wall. Fixed is just what it sounds like. The light is fixed in straight position. This is a good choice for areas where you need an even layer of light, such as a playroom. In a playroom, you want visibility no matter where the task of playing is going to happen. And contrast or focal points, they're not usually as important. So because fixed fixtures don't have the same engineering, they are a less expensive option, but you're giving up flexibility. So you just really want to use this option only where you're sure the room use isn't going to change over time. So there are three key features to adjustability in an architectural downlight: vertical tilt, horizontal rotation, and high-low lamp positioning. When reviewing these features in a product, you just want to keep in mind how easy it is to use the features and how far they go in performance. So vertical tilt refers to how high on the wall you can aim the fixture, for instance, to light the top of a large piece of art. And the best products offer 40 to 45 degrees of vertical tilt with all of the engineering above the ceiling plane. So anyone remember the eyeball? That's dropping below the ceiling plane. We like everything to be tucked nice up in the ceiling. Many less premium products will have only 30 degrees of vertical tilt or even be limited to 15 or 20 degrees. And that means that you might not be able to light the top part of a piece of art because the light can't aim that high on the wall. Horizontal rotation is critical as a quality marker, and it refers to aiming the light in different directions. So for instance, you could rotate the fixture to aim at art on the wall or rotate it the other direction to light a nearby chair. The optimum rotation is 360 degrees plus. If your fixture has less than 360 degrees rotation, it has a dead spot. It's easier to engineer something that only goes 359 degrees and stops, and it is more expensive to engineer something that can pass that point. But if you don't go 360 degrees or over, it could be problematic because most projects don't coordinate the orientation of the housing during installation. And a fixture with at least 360 degrees horizontal rotation offers the greatest aiming flexibility and just that ease of mind that no matter where the housing goes, you're always going to be able to get the light where you need it. So the third critical aiming feature is high-low lamp positioning. This is a great way to achieve quiet ceiling. When the fixture's light source is in the high position, you reduce brightness at the aperture and make the ceiling recede. That's that quiet ceiling concept. However, there might be times during aiming when you need to get the light as high up on the wall as it can go, or you need the most light out of the fixture. And in that case, you can pull the light source down into the low position, closer to the aperture, and get all of those functions out of it. So this kind of engineering feature really allows for a tremendous amount of flexibility after the fixture is installed. With these three architectural category features, a fixture can adapt to and perform really beautifully in a lot of different applications. So before we spend more time on wall washing, I really want to talk about the importance of lighting the vertical plane. With eyes in the front of our heads that continuously scan the horizon, lighting the vertical plane at about eye level is one of the most impactful things that we can do. Remember that we talked about light informing space perception? If the light in a room is concentrated on a horizontal surface, like a table, and there's little light on the wall, you're going to experience the room as smaller, maybe as intimate, moody, or maybe cave-like. Visualize a restaurant dining table with a pool of light over it. But if you take that exact same amount of light, but you concentrate it on the wall instead of the table, even though there may not be very much light at the table surface, your mind is going to perceive the room as brighter and larger. So once you become aware of how light impacts the perception of a space, you can really use lighting techniques to enhance the experience of your interior. Wall washing is a great way to do this. Wall washing looks great on a continuous plane, like an architectural feature wall, or a long wall of built-ins, a smooth architectural stone fireplace, or for areas that just might need more flexibility over time, like I mentioned, a photo gallery wall. Now imagine a wall with multiple openings. That's probably not an ideal application. Wall washing is a really potent lighting technique, so you do want to use it strategically. So wall washing is great for flat walls. The technique flattens and smooths out the appearance of the wall surface. So if you remember, I mentioned grazing, not good for drywall. The opposite of grazing is wall washing, and wall washing eliminates shadows on the vertical plane, so the surface will appear smooth. It's great for drywall, really minimizing tape lines and imperfections. So last note on wall washing, take a quick look at the photos here. In the top photo, you can see commodity fixed downlights located very close to the wall. This is allowing the arc of the light to go really high on the wall, but notice the sharp contrast where the light begins. Because it's so far above the artwork, it's kind of distracting. It's almost hard to notice the artwork because of the light pattern. With a performance architectural wall washer and appropriate spacing, you can achieve the lighting effect in the lower photo. Notice the light is even across the entire plane of the wall. Since the artwork is really large, using a wall washing technique is a great choice. The wall washing creates even illumination without shadows, really allowing the viewer to take in the art without distracting light patterns. You want to space wall washers equally from each other. The distance between the wall washers should be the same as the distance from the fixture to the wall. That's 1-to-1 spacing. And finally, wall washers vary wildly in their performance. You can achieve the look in the top photo with a standard downlight, but with an engineered high-performance wall wash fixture, you can achieve true wall washing as shown in the lower photo. So here I have a photo of an architectural lighting wall display, which offers a snapshot of different lighting techniques. If you look at the artwork in the center, you can see an application of adjustable architectural recess fixtures. The light is focused on the art itself with contrast to the top and the sides. Because of the aiming capabilities of the fixture, the contrast light line is aligned with the top of the art itself. The art is the brightest object and a pronounced focal point that really draws your eye. To the right, a photo gallery, like I mentioned, is illuminated with a wall wash technique. And you can see there's not as much light focused on the photographs. Instead, there's a softer, even illumination from the top to the bottom of the space with no contrast or shadows. So with these images, you can pretty readily see how different architectural recess products can dramatically change the experience of the space and offer real value to your project. Okay, so once you've selected the fixture, adjustable, wall wash, or fixed, there are still some choices to be made. For instance, what aperture size do I want? There's a lot of terminology in the industry around fixture size and aperture, and it can be confusing, but usually with recessed, the size refers to the hole that's cut in the ceiling. So for instance, a 3-inch architectural recess product will have a 3-inch cutout in the ceiling, but the opening in the trim or the aperture will be much smaller, under 2 inches. Because the industry nomenclature isn't consistent, just be sure to confirm the true dimensions of the products you're considering. And it's especially important if you're comparing commodity products with an architectural product. The bigger the aperture gets, the brighter a fixture is in the ceiling. So when it comes to quiet ceiling, smaller is better. Lumen output is the measurement of light coming out of the fixture, and the aperture size isn't always correlated to light output. Again, especially as you compare commodity and architectural. So regardless of the size, make sure you're checking the output so that you're comparing apples to apples. In architecture, recess fixtures, 3-inch is the most popular size and it has the most options. You can get lumen packages that service ceiling heights up to 18 feet with a small 3-inch fixture. And the 2-inch size really has a sleek and minimalist look. It's also growing in popularity. 2-inch is available with output packages up to 1,300 lumens, which can get you probably a 10-foot ceiling. Because of the small aperture with 2-inch products, there are some limitations and special designs for servicing, so just be aware of those. In architectural recess products for residential, 4-inch is really only necessary if you have ceilings over 18 feet and need that really high output. So just a quick note on LED or halogen. By far the most popular choice these days is LED, and in the industry it's probably over 90% by now. LED has not only amazing energy efficiency and the long life that it's known for, but today it has terrific color, great color consistency over the life of the product, and a smooth, even beam. So LED is now outperforming halogen in every category. Recessed downlights are probably going to be in place for 20 years or more. So you want to have a really good reason for selecting a halogen these days. It's going to be hard for the client to service halogen and expensive over the life of the product from an energy perspective. So some people occasionally use a halogen housing with the intention of replacing the halogen bulbs with LED bulbs. I don't recommend this because replacement LED bulbs have significantly inferior lumen output, color quality, although that's getting a little better, and life compared to the LED sources in architectural recessed products. But if you do go this route, just make sure any halogen housing you choose is designed with a driver that or a transformer that will accept LED lamps. Okay, so if the ceiling is open, a new construction housing is your best choice. If there's already a ceiling in place, you have the option of a remodel housing, which can be installed from below the ceiling by cutting a hole and slipping the fixture up into the plenum. Sometimes, however, because there just are a lot more options available with a new construction housing, if you're doing a remodel project, sometimes people choose a new construction product. Even if they have an existing ceiling, they just cut a larger hole and patch it after the fixture is installed. If there is insulation in the ceiling, most remodel fixtures can't be used. IC rating means the fixture is rated for insulation contact, and most remodel cans aren't IC rated. And is the space above the ceiling constrained? That never happens, right? A manufacturer with a broad architectural recessed platform will have what we call solution-driven products to solve for a variety of ceiling constraints, giving you a really wide range of products to meet those needs. This means the appearance below the ceiling remains consistent, even when the HVAC duct is inconveniently located or in a remodel project that might have new construction and a remodel together. Okay, so we've come a pretty long way. We know we want recessed, we know we want architectural recessed, we know if we want fixed, adjustable, or wall wash, and we know what housing we want. You all agree we have to get LED. So now it's time to figure out our complete fixture spec. The ordering grid for architectural product can be a little complicated. And can you guys go the next slide? Thanks. I actually have an example here on the right of the slide, and we'll take the last part of the presentation to demystify these choices. And I bet you're going to find it less complicated than it looks. So the following information is probably review for most of you, but it is a basics course, and I just want to make sure that everyone listening understands the references needed to select the best architectural downlight. So we're going to spend some time on the terminology you would encounter in a spec sheet for an architectural grade recessed fixture. So first of all, I know this is really basic, but a housing is the part of the product that goes above the ceiling, and the trim is the part that goes below the ceiling. The housing always needs to be on site before the ceiling goes up, and the trim goes on basically at the last thing in a project. So these can be ordered separately. This way trims aren't sitting on job sites for a long time. So today, trims come in a wide variety of styles, aesthetics, and finishes. The shape selection of square or round is basically personal preference. Ease of installation is an important consideration if you're looking at different manufacturers. If you select square, just make sure the manufacturer you use has an easy process for alignment of the fixtures during installation. And we all know that white isn't white when it comes to ceiling paint and manufactured materials. A trim with the feature field paintable really allows the manufacturer's finish to act as a primer, and this way trims can be painted in the field to match the ceiling. For people who are investing in architectural recessed lighting, mud-in or flangeless detailing is the most popular selection. Flanged is when there's a flange or a lip around the edge of the trim that covers up the drywall cut. With flangeless, the trim is completely flush with the ceiling, allowing a really sleek and seamless integration. The reason that people are selecting this option and making the extra effort at installation is because it just looks really, really good. The product cost difference between flanged and flangeless is nominal, but the installation for flangeless is more complicated and does require additional investment. Just make sure to use an experienced drywall professional with plaster capabilities for a clean installation. So you guys have heard me mention lumens a number of times in this presentation. I'm sure it's old hat for you, but just to dig in that a little bit more, historically, we would say this fixture takes a 60-watt lamp, and all of us could understand how much light that would put out. Watts is technically a measure of consumption, not output. And today with LED technology, an 8-watt LED lamp puts out, or bulb, puts out the same amount of light as a 60-watt incandescent bulb did. So speaking watts really can't be universally understood anymore. So to translate that, we've had to start talking about the output instead of consumption. And the measurement we all use is lumens. An incandescent 60-watt bulb puts out around 800 lumens. If you can visualize the amount of light that you get from a 60-watt incandescent bulb, you can visualize how much light 800 lumens is, and then you can begin to apply that mental measure to LED products. When it comes to lumens, there are a few things to note. Some manufacturers list the chip output, which makes their product look more favorably efficient when with the higher output. But a quality manufacturer is going to measure the light output after the chip is inside the fixture form. That's called net or delivered lumens, and it's a much more accurate description of the true performance. So when you're comparing products, just make sure both are listing the lumens as net or delivered. In architectural downlights, most manufacturers provide multiple outputs to suit different output needs, and this is really convenient for selecting the amount of light that you need in different spaces. Too much light can be as problematic as too little, especially when it comes to dimming, which we're going to talk about in a few slides. But to sum it up, if you start with a lot of light, even when you dim it down, you're going to still end up with more light. And so it's worth taking the time to specify the product with the right amount of light. So correlated color temperature, I'm sure you guys know what this is, but just to cover our bases, the higher the color temperature, the bluer the light is, and the lower the color temperature, the warmer or redder the color is. This really relates to how a piece of iron will change color as its temperature increases, and we call that the correlated color temperature. It's measured in degrees Kelvin, which is sometimes shortened to K. In the United States, for most residential interior spaces, we use white light that measures between 27 degrees Kelvin and 3000 degrees Kelvin. And when it comes down to personal preference, some people recommend 2700K for warmer color palettes and 3000 for white or cooler color palettes like blues or grays. But just keep in mind that you don't have to use the same color throughout a home. For instance, you might want 3000K in kitchens, bathrooms, or closets where the mood is energetic and efficient. Visibility is really important. You might want a warmer 2700K in the living and dining spaces where people want to relax and enjoy themselves. So the better the quality of the LED source, the warmer the light's going to appear. That's because it's actually rendering all of the colors very well. So a high quality 3000K fixture actually appears warmer than one with poor color quality. Warm dim actually refers to a new technology that mimics incandescent. It's becoming very popular. As the light output is dimmed down, the color shifts from 3000 down to, say, 2200K, depending on the manufacturer, in the same way that incandescent gets more amber as you dim it. There's another technology called tunable white, which is even more flexible. Sometimes it's called programmable white, and this technology is up and coming. It's really exciting. It allows you to control color temperature independently from output, which gives you a wide range of options for setting mood in a space as the use changes throughout the day. You could program the lights in a room to perfectly complement the color of the materials in that space, in each space in a house. It's pretty interesting. Okay, can you guys advance the slide? Sorry, I went off script there a little bit. Okay, so color binning, the human eye is really good at picking up color consistency and can even see small changes in color. At the same time, LED color manufacturing isn't 100% precise. The measurement between color temperatures is referred to as binning, and the tolerance range is measured in steps. So a manufacturer with good color consistency will have at least 3-step binning, ideally 2-step or even 1-step binning tolerances. With 3-step binning and even better 2-step binning, you're never going to get different light colors coming out of each light fixture like you can see in the photo below. So quality binning is really going to assure when you have lots of lights in a home, they'll all appear the same color. And binning is an important thing to evaluate when you're comparing recessed fixtures. And color rendering, you guys are familiar with the CRI, or color rendering index. It's still the most common way to evaluate how a light source is rendering color on a scale of 1 to 100. Higher CRI equals better looking color, and a good standard is 90 CRI or higher. Because higher CRI requires more phosphor on the chip, the LED output is a little less efficient. Sometimes you might see 80 CRI still available. That's selected where efficiency is the primary concern, for instance, in commercial spaces, where they want the most efficient light possible. With the advances in LED technology, we've realized that CRI doesn't really tell the whole story. It worked well enough for incandescent, but it's an important measure, an imperfect measure of LED color quality. As a result, the industry is transitioning to some different metrics. TM30 is a new and more in-depth standard for measuring color performance. Where CRI only measures 8 colors, TM30 really measures the spectrum of colors. RF measures fidelity. An RF score indicates how well a light source renders 99 colors chosen from real-world objects, and that's on a scale of 0 to 100 and compared to natural light. In other words, it's kind of like CRI on steroids. An average score of over 90 means really good color. Over 95 means excellent color. RG, or gamut, measures saturation. Scores below 100 indicate the color is less saturated than under sunlight, while scores above 100 mean the colors are more intense than under sunlight. A perfect score of 100 means it follows what we call the black body curve, but plus or minus 5% is still excellent color quality when it comes to gamut. And then you might also hear the term R9, which specifically is the measurement of red under the light source. And again, you want the score to be over 90 for really good rendering of red. So if you guys have ever played with a flashlight with an adjustable beam spread, you know that when it's a spotlight, you have high intensity over a small area, while when it's a floodlight, you have low intensity over a wider area. And that concept is exactly the same for architectural recessed lighting. A quality manufacturer will have field changeable optics or beam spreads that you can use to adjust to fixture performance in the field for the changing needs of the space over time. This is really important because the impact in the perception of the space is altered by the amount of light on different elements, as we discussed, and beam spread is the way to control where the light goes and what it illuminates. There are some rules of thumb on beam spreads at the bottom of the page. You can take a minute to screenshot this if it would be helpful later. But to get into the nitty-gritty, the beam spread refers to the width and the shape of the beam, and that you can see a line drawing image of that there to the right. Light intensity is strongest at the center of the beam. That's called center beam candle power. You can get reports on CBCP on spec sheets. To give you an idea, 6,000 CBCP would indicate you have a wide beam angle with the light dispersed over a larger space, making that number relatively low, and 18,000 CBCP would indicate that you have a tight beam spread or a spotlight with the light concentrated in the center. LED naturally emits in an extremely wide pattern, and an optic or reflector is added to shape the beam. When deciding what optic to select, you just want to think about how far the light has to travel from the fixture and how great of an area that you're trying to light. For a focal point piece of art, you probably want more of a spot or a smaller beam angle, 25 to 40 in order to get the contrast needed. If you have a high ceiling, you might need a narrow beam angle like 15 to 25 degrees to push enough light over the distance. And if you have a lower ceiling or to cover a really wide area, a larger beam angle like 40 to 60 degrees is a great choice. Okay, so I did mention IC rating before. A fixture with an IC rating is rated to have insulation contact, such as the fixture shown in the photo to the left. This is most commonly used in residential applications with insulation in the ceiling plenum, and I'm sure it's not really news to any of you. Non-IC housings can be used in projects with no insulation, or in some municipalities, the insulation can actually be held back from the fixture, as we're showing in the picture to the right. Because LEDs don't create a lot of heat, many housings are now called universal, or meaning there really isn't a difference between IC and non-IC. And if you ever come across Chicago plenum, don't worry about it unless someone on the project is asking for it. This rating is really specific to a certain kind of construction typical in high-rise commercial buildings, and even most Chicago projects don't require Chicago plenum. So you've probably heard people talking about drivers regarding LED, like your computer or your cell phone. An LED fixture can't take 120 volts of electricity, which is the standard in the US. A driver is going to regulate the power to the fixture, just like your charger regulates the power to your phone. The quality of the driver is going to be the #1 thing that determines the longevity of the fixture and the quality of the dimming. So choose manufacturers that have reliable, high quality drivers and can provide you with a dimming compatibility chart. Just make sure that any dimmer that you're using is compatible with the fixture, and that usually is a relationship to the driver. So one tip: in the order and grid of an architectural downlight by a quality manufacturer, there's going to be multiple driver options. That can get a little overwhelming, but usually the standard driver option is really good. And you would probably need the other listed options only if an AV integrator or an architect is requiring something special to work with the home control system. Okay, so I'm a huge believer in dimming all light sources because dimming offers the greatest amount of control and flexibility. When most people are talking about quality dimming, they're generally mean how low does it go. So to give you an example, if the fixture lumen output starts at 1,000 lumens, the fixture will be emitting 100 lumens when it's dimmed to 10%. 100 lumens sounds pretty low, but it's really not that low. And the reason is that while humans are really good at differentiating color, like the difference you might see between fixtures with poor color quality, they're really bad at differentiating brightness. The chart on the slide here kind of demonstrates this. The human eye perceives a fixture that's dimmed down to 10% as still 40% bright. So basically, we perceive it as a lot brighter than it actually is. So that means that even when we dim a fixture down to 1% of the initial output, we still perceive it as 10% bright. And that's why it's important to get a fixture with the right level of output. You want to buy a fixture that has deep dimming capabilities, and that means it has a quality driver. If you don't, the lights might be too bright and you won't be able to dim them down low enough. So using architectural downlights throughout a space. Fantastic. We just got through the basic terminology that you're going to need to complete and understand a spec sheet. As we get to the end of the CEU, I just want to take a minute to look at a space that encompasses the concepts, techniques, and products that we've been discussing. So take a look at the photo here. In this room, we can see that they've used recessed fixtures with flangeless trims throughout the space, so beautiful mud in, that quiet ceiling look. And I happen to know the selection for color of light was the warm dim technology. For the general illumination layer, there are soft fixed downlights using a 60-degree optic over the seating area. Look how they light the material of the sofa and the tabletop, but the light falls away around the edge of the rug. This provides great task lighting over the conversation area, and it's bright compared to the light levels on the floor around it, which really showcases the primary function of the room. They're using two 10-degree spotlights to model the sculpture at the table in the seating area. That's becoming a dramatic focal point from all perspectives. It's a wonderful add to the accent layer. The 4 pieces of art on the walls and the fireplace feature are strategically illuminated to provide interest and focus on the vertical planes. There are 3 adjustable fixtures with a 40-degree, like a medium-wide optic on the large painting to the left. This is across from the sofa. It's a primary line of sight for the seating area, and it causes the artwork to be really bright with contrasting shadows around it. That makes it appear to glow, and the colors are looking amazing. Next to it, there are 3 wall washers, evenly spaced and lighting the architectural feature of the fireplace wall, which is a smooth travertine material, and that's becoming a glowing plane, a really striking architectural feature. And the dramatic fireplace opening is enhanced in contrast. On the opposing wall, there are 2 smaller pieces of art, which are illuminated each with just 1 accent light, again, using shadow to create interest, but informing us also that this wall is not quite as important as the opposite wall. We don't have as much light on it. And you can just see a little bit of the corridor in the back with wall washers lighting that corridor wall. It's a really great choice, again, for a long area that might have multiple pieces of art, and those might change over time. Wall washers are practical and flexible for that kind of need. And just notice one final point. Although caveat, I would like to see a decorative layer added here with some table lamps, maybe a chandelier. but our focus is architectural recess. So one thing to notice here, your eye is drawn to the important elements of the design, the brightest things in the room. And although there are multiple openings in the ceiling, they're not really drawing your eye. The recess selections are really painting the space in light and enhancing an interior that's rich with beauty, function, and comfort. Okay, great. So we have almost made it to the end of our time together. As we wrap up the CEU, I just want to leave you with a review of some of the final thoughts. So we said where the light is placed and at what intensity can powerfully impact how you perceive and experience a space. And lighting is going to tell a story about a space. The lighting will inform the message of what's happening. Think of a fast food restaurant where the lighting is bright and even, conveying really high energy. Sometimes the lighting's even a little too bright. The story, get in, eat, don't get too comfortable. This is really different from an experience of a fine dining establishment where the lighting will imply luxury and visual interest, intimacy. It's really going to invite you to revel in the experience, which we all hope we get to do everywhere soon again. Just think about lighting in a big box retail store. It's not bad lighting. In fact, it's perfect for what they're trying to achieve: bright, functional, efficient. It's just not very interesting, and it doesn't make you feel that good in the space. When you think about it, historically in residential design, people are frequently placing commodity cans throughout the space in a generic grid that has a similar lighting result. It's kind of the equivalent of lighting a home like a big box store. This presentation is really about the fact that we don't need to do that. You can create more dynamic spaces with more nuanced lighting solutions, strategically using architectural recess lighting. We also talked about the fact that the human eye focuses on the brightest thing in a room, so we don't want that to be the bright commodity cans in the ceiling. Like we said, lighting tells a story, and you want to be in control of that story. You want to light the things that you want people to focus on. Remember that lighting vertical surfaces is more impactful than lighting horizontal surfaces. You want to put light on things that are important. That's not usually the floor, but when you take the time to do the task lighting, accent important features, you often have enough reflected light for walking safely. So add in a few more lights, such as table lamps for the ambient layer, to softly even things out. When we design like that, we're creating layers of light. And remember, not lighting something is just as important as lighting something to create contrast and visual interest. So I don't think we covered this previously, but another thing, how the light leaves a decorative fixture and impacts the space around it is as important as the form. The form of a decorative fixture is critical to complement the interior design, but the emitted light is actually going to impact the whole feel of the space. Great architectural recess lighting is one of the most powerful tools for impacting the aesthetics and function of a home. It's also one way to relieve pressure on the performance requirements of decorative fixtures, really allowing for wider selection of choices there. And finally, if you can visualize where the light comes from and what it does when it reaches a reflective surface, you can understand and then control how lighting impacts your design, and you're ready to create great lighting. So we've covered the principles, tools, and terminology needed to talk confidently about great lighting and an understanding of the architectural recess fixtures that are going to help you do that. Okay, so that ends our formal CEU presentation. If you'd like more information about lighting architectural products like those discussed in this presentation, LBU Lighting is a great resource. You can also visit us at our website, techlighting.com. And Don Lyon from Laurent Lyon Lighting is with me today. There are representatives in this part of Florida, and Don is now going to host a Q&A session. So I just want to say thank you again, LBU Lighting, for inviting us here this evening. And thanks to all of you for coming to learn about architectural recess downlights. I'll hand it over to Don now.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Abigail. We appreciate that. I'm here with Adam at LBU. We have just a few questions, unless there's any others that come up. But Abigail, are you on? No, she's gone.
Is Abigail still on?
She's on.
Okay.
She's on. Okay, good. So we have one, or you can read them.
Yeah, so one of the questions that we had that came in was, what kind of budget do you need for achieving great lighting?
So it depends on the, really, you can go from architectural lighting, recessed lighting, or recessed channels, but for architectural lighting, it can range from $2 a square foot up to $10 a square foot. If you include LED channels, maybe that would start for another $1.50 to $3 a square foot, to give you an idea, or something like that.
And then as far as when designing a layout, somebody asked, how can I get help creating a great lighting layout? Because obviously when it comes to tech lighting, like the lumens, I mean, the power, I mean, everything that goes into it. What can you tell us about that?
Well, that's a softball. Thank you very much. So really, I mean, LBU is a great resource. They can help you do lighting layouts. We're the local reps for tech lighting and Element. We can help you with lighting calculations or layouts as you need, but LBU is a great resource. They've got 9 locations, lighting designers associated with them, and they can help you with a lot of technical aspects of architectural lighting.
And can you tell us, just when it comes to trimless and flangeless, what can you tell us as far as the differentiating factors? Right.
So trimless and flangeless, I guess it's the same thing. Really, what you're talking about is a quiet ceiling. A lot of times you'll see, I guess Abigail kind of explained that, which, a trim has a flange that lays on top of the ceiling. It covers a hole and has a wider trim. And a trimless or flangeless kind of goes into the ceiling. So it's a smooth ceiling and it goes inside the ceiling. You would put drywall mud right up to the edge and then place the trim inside of the ceiling, and it gives you that quiet ceiling look that, it's highly desirable now with architects and designers.
And just the retrofit LED versus Element?
Oh, yeah, right. That's a good question. The retrofit versus an Element. So, for instance, a retrofit could be like a standard can that you might see in the ceiling where you put a light bulb. But now they pull that out and they put in this LED trim, I guess you'd say. So they're popular. They're a very low price point product. But the other thing about them is it has a low lumen output. A lot of them, or the highest I've seen, is around 600 lumens. So you would take, for instance, our 3-inch has 1,800 lumens. So you might need 3 times the holes in your ceiling to have just one output of our recessed lighting from Element. And that's a big difference. A quiet ceiling, we have less holes and more power coming out, and that's very desirable. Again, less holes, quiet ceiling, more power.
And then lastly, just to simply put it, a well-designed lighting system in a home. Tell us what it really does for the aesthetics and just the overall experience that someone achieves in a home.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of the light, most of the light in the house is ambient light. I mean, you're going to have some task light in the kitchen, right? But if you set it up, you can highlight an object or some artwork exactly where you want it. So it highlights the light where you want it. You can have dim light in another area. The layers of light that Abigail spoke about is what you can achieve that with different types of light, above light, architectural light. But really the key is not to notice it. The best light is that you don't really see it. So you would have a quiet ceiling. It's kind of hidden. It's like anything else, but less visible holes in the ceiling or channels in the wall. But the best would be, I guess, the quiet.
Absolutely.
More power.
And now, we have one more question.
Yeah, Sheldon's looking for recessed, plastered-in, track lighting, interchangeable lighting elements.
Here, do you want to read? You can repeat that.
Yeah, so we have, Tech has a product. We had a product that was in our line recently that had a recessed channel. But now we have, it was called Merge, where you had interchangeable heads or pendants. Now we have a new product. It's a slim line, much more powerful, very clean, called Essence. And that's an LED channel that very similar and probably something you can look at now. It's on our website, Essence.
Is there any other questions?
No. Abigail's having some comments.
She has some comments. Does anyone else have any more questions to ask? If anyone has any more questions, we'll wait a couple more seconds. Any questions here in studio? You're good? No more questions? Well, we'll do the first drawing in case somebody wants to ask another question. I'll let Don explain what we have here, and I'm going to be picking a name.
We have a 5-light rail kit from Tiela, from Tech Lighting Tiela. You win right away. And that's what we have. It has 5 lights. It's easy to install. Goes right to a J-box.
And do you want to read off the winner of this?
I do. Pat Reed.
Pat Reed, raise your hand. Comment in the box below, and Pat Reed won the first drawing.
Is that Pat Reed, local Pat Reed? With John Reed as her son? Let me see. Who's the next?
All right, so number 2, we have one more offering the same, and this is the second.
Oh, wow. It's Robert McNichols. Robert, congratulations. You won a Tiela kit.
There you go.
Oh, it's a set.
And we have him here. Robert, congratulations.
Robert, the instructions are right on the back.
And is there any more questions that have come in? Any more questions? All right. Well, I want to thank everybody on behalf of LBU Lighting, Tech Lighting, Don and your team, and the Home Designer Remodeling Show. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.